Today's episode is powered by HAYABUSA. Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Today, we're going to discuss calf kicks and liver finishes. With all this talk about calf kicks, we're always focused on that one shot, but the better strategy might be focusing on the calf and the liver. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about how you can attack the calf to set up that liver finish. Lately in mixed martial arts, there's been a lot of talk about the calf kick, especially in that Dustin Poirier-Conor McGregor 2 fight. Dustin Poirier was able to use that calf kick to eventually slow down Conor McGregor and get the finish with the hands. And this is what this video is about, using the calf kick with a different strategy. And the strategy is using that calf kick to get the liver finish. Let's talk about the two areas. First, the calf kick. The calf kick's positives is that you shut down that movement and you could attack from a long range. However, you're really open to counter shots at that time. If your opponent's waiting for that calf kick and he's loading up that power shot, you really need to be careful because we've seen the kicker get knocked out in those times too many times without a good setup. Now, the liver shot, why I talk about it being such a better place to attack is because it only takes one shot. If I hit the liver effectively with my left hook, boom, my opponent goes down. Where the calf kick, I have to keep going over and over again. So this is where I'm going to talk about 5 different ways where you can use that calf kick to help set up that liver shot. You can't go into war and battle with just thinking about one area to attack. Yes, it's important because you want to keep going there, especially the calf. But in order to finish that calf, you do need to create a distraction. So this is where the liver shot I prefer to use. A lot of times everybody attacks the head. Yes, it's important. It might open up the liver, it creates a distraction for the leg. But you have to have 2 points of attack, always. So if I'm going to the liver, my opponent thinks and forgets about the leg. If I attack the calf, all of a sudden they're so fixated on the calf that I can go back to the liver. So mixing and matching between the two until one of those areas gets so damaged that I get the finish. So let's get into the first one that I like to use. So after you get to the calf kick, all of a sudden you'll see reactions from your opponent, and that's what you want. Either they're gonna start slipping, or they have to block, or when they get hit, they become a stationary planted target for you to hit. So that's gonna be the setup from the calf kick into my liver shot. So the first thing you want to do after you have the calf hurt is to use a kick feint. By feinting with the right kick, I get that reaction. Either they plant themselves or they're bracing themselves to take that calf kick. So feint, what happens now is I load up my shoulder. So by feinting here, I keep a left side loaded. This way, boom, I can go to my left liver shot. So using the calf kick feint, turning my hip over lets me load up my left hip. Now I got that big power, that big dig to the liver, okay? Now you can use that feint kick with 1, the left hook. 2, you can do it with a knee or a kick. It's the same type of technique. You need to feint, load up the left side, boom, I can throw a knee or step off. If my opponent leaves, that's when I attack with my left kick. So the feint gets my opponent to react. If they stay stationary, I really like that rip to the body. Or if I know they're trying to counter me with punches, I might throw a kick feint, control their hands, use a left knee to the liver. And finally, if I feint and they exit, trying to create that space to kind of slip my kick or my knee, this is when, boom, I'll extend my knee and I'll go for a full liver kick at that point. So depending on their reaction and the range, I will mix up the strike. But it all comes from 1, a good calf kick, and then selling it with a nice feint. Another way that I like to set up my liver shots via calf kicks is with my lateral tracking. So whether I'm in a ring or a cage, I'm always tracking my opponent, staying in front of them. If they're trying to circle out, this is where I want to punish them for moving in that direction. So usually, if I'm lined up with my opponent, if they go one way, I attack with my low kick. If they move over this way, I like to attack with my hooks or my left side attack. So one way, right side attack, they go the other way, I attack with my left side. Whether they're with punches or kicks, I'm always punishing them for moving in that direction. So back to the strategy of hitting the liver, if I continually attack in that calf, a smart opponent's going to make an adjustment, and the adjustment is circle away from the power side. So what's going to happen now, they're circling away from my right kick, which they're scared. The calf kick has created damage. So as they're circling this way, I meet them with that left hook to the liver. If I'm close range and playing nice head-to-head, they circle, boom, I attack. A lot of times I like to double up the hooks to create the distraction, especially if they know I'm attacking the liver. I might throw a hard hook to get them to block, which means the liver is open. Head and then rip to the body. So I'm punishing them via my lateral tracking on the way they're going. They want to go one way, their calf's going to keep taking that damage. Eventually you're not going to go that way. You're coming this way to meet my left hook, and either to the head or to the body. But because it's all about liver finishes, you can mix and play those levels to be that much more effective. The last way I'm going to discuss attacking the liver off of calf kicks is usually when your opponent becomes stationary. They become a standing target, and that usually tends to happen. Because the leg is so compromised, they don't have that movement anymore. So what happens is, boom, they become that stationary target, and they wait or they switch stances, and at that point it might become a little bit more difficult to attack the calf. So you can do push-off attacks. There's different strategies, but I want that liver attack. So you can use something called hand pins and frames. So what you want to do, once they're hurt and they're stationary on that leg, sometimes I like to grab the hand. I'll push off and then I attack the liver this way, or I'll create angles off of the hand pins. You need to make sure you control your opponent's hands, because at this point, right, their only chance of stopping you is countering back with big punches, because the leg's compromised, they can't kick, they can't move. So it's important that you control the hands, whether I'm using punches and then holding the hand to rip the body, or creating angles, or using clinch to get inside to use my knees. I'm always using a hand pin and frame to control my opponent. My two favorite ways of using the hand pins and frames is usually off of my left hook. So what's going to happen now is when I hook to the head, I create a connection with my opponent. Either I can keep it there, or sometimes I just use these slaps to get my opponent to defend. By them having to defend their head, they become a nice planted target. And when they're planted, it leaves me that liver shot to attack. So hold the head. I could even frame this way, long guard, rip this way. Or if they exit, this is the second way that I like to use, is using my lead side to my left kick. So many times when people throw a left kick, it's off the right hand into my left kick. But where I could attack that liver, and what's confusing for people, is I use the lead hand and then mix my left kick underneath the elbow to attack that liver. And that's so nice off of the low kick, because they're stationary here, and in this way I can basically control their hands, avoid their counter shots, and still hit the liver. So there you go, different ways to make sure you attack the liver with calf kicks. You got to make sure you have two plans, and by having those plans and those distractions to use for each other, eventually one is going to open up. It's so predictable if you go into the fight with only one way of winning. Yes, people know that I'm a good low kicker, so by constantly attacking the leg, they become prepared. So I have to find different ways to set things up. So a lot of times in my career, I used the left hook to the body and my low kicks. They work together. Left hook, right low kick, tracking people into my targets. So you have to have those distractions to make it that much more difficult for your opponent to understand. Okay? So go back and use these different ways. There is no one way, but it's always important to have multiple ways practice. Especially, we know this calf kick has become so effective. And a lot of times, if you watch back on another video I posted on things that bother me when fighters fight, is not finishing that leg. And the reason why fighters aren't finishing the leg is because they don't have that distraction to go to. Your opponent is waiting for it, they become so dependent, and you're not really attacking other areas for them to forget about the leg, because that's what you want. You want them to forget, defend their head, and then go back to the leg, and it's just going to help you get the finish. Okay, so make sure you keep liking and subscribing to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA, and make sure you go to HAYABUSAfight.com and check out the T3 boxing gloves, as they're my personal favorite. Head over to BazookaShop.com if you like any of the gear and the merchandise that I'm wearing. And guess what? We're going to see you back next week at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA.